You are in for a treat. We are doing a hip opening session, and for this particular session, a Pilates ball is the prop we will be using. If you don't have a ball at home, try a towel rolled up to be a similar size. Come on down onto your mat for me. And we're going to start off lying down on our back. And once we're down onto our back, you want to have those knees bent and you want to lift your bottom up high enough that you can slide your ball under your pelvis. Now, which part of your pelvis? I like to think about my sacrum, which is a triangular bone of your spine that sits basically between your butt cheeks. So that's a good starting point. And then once you've kind of got yourself settled there, you'll know if the ball is too low down towards your legs, you'll feel like the ball's almost going to pop out and your back's going to collapse down, okay? So, and if it's too high up, it's in your lower back, you're going to feel like there's probably just a bit too much pressure into that lower back area. So find your sweet spot, and remember, as we do the exercises, the ball tends to move a bit, so feel free to rearrange it. First things first, just chill out, settle into it. And as we're chilling out and settling into it, we're just going to start to let our hips just swish from side to side. In terms of effort, there is none. Okay, that's a really important thing to remember here. You're literally just getting your hips moving with ease, which is what we want. And then one more on each side. And then come back to the center. Now, I'm putting my hands so you can see what's happening. Now one hip goes higher than the other, and then we just change. And as we're dropping one hip down and lifting one hip up, you'll notice that therefore one knee reaches further away than the other. It has to happen. So once you get this kind of concept of how to move the hips, you may also notice the ball starts to roll. And you'll feel it more underneath your drop side. So I've got my left hip drop, so I feel more weight underneath my left hip on that ball. And then as I go to the other side, that left hip then starts to almost lift off the ball a bit. And then continuing to change. I find this direction kind of confuses people a little bit more. So once you've got it in your brain, got it in your body, then start to do it in a way that has, again, less effort. Think no effort, just movement. Just letting it flow and not trying too hard. Are you breathing? Yeah. I'm not being specific about the breath at the moment because I just want you to breathe in your own time. And I find one of my sides, I can just let it go and let it move. And the other side, it's like I'm fighting with it. I'm trying too hard and it's then resisting the movement. Okay, and then back into the center. And now what we're going to do is just this gentle kind of rocking action where you're imagining the tail wagging down to the floor, up to the ceiling, down to the floor, up to the ceiling. Again, it's not huge movement. There is no effort. You're just allowing the ball to really take you on this journey. As I wag my tail to the floor, I'm going to start to inhale there. As I tuck it under a little, I'm exhaling. And exhale, inhale, exhale, 2 more. And 1 more. And then come back to our starting position. And now we're basically kind of stirring around. So if I had a bowl of soup on top of my pelvis here, I'm literally trying to swish the soup all the way around. Just letting it all get stirred. 2 more. 1 more. And reverse it, stirring it around. And again, once you kind of get the feel of it, then ask your body to relax and just allow a gentle bit of momentum to take you around. Check your back's not trying to do the work either. It's just those hips releasing and moving. You know, like a hula dancer. It's amazing what their hips can do. That's what we're kind of thinking about here. And one more. And then to the center. Now our right leg goes out and away from us. What I'd like to do here is just pick up my left leg and then figure out my balancing act. So you may want to hold your left leg with your left hand, your right hand, both hands. It just depends on how you feel balance-wise, okay? So as you're pulling your left knee in towards you, your right leg is pressing down and away from you. Now, I'm a dancer. My leg wants to turn out here. I'm going to try and keep my right leg in a parallel position if possible. Feel free to yell at the TV if I start to turn it out. As with breath out happens, I sink the left knee closer to the chest and then release. So as you're breathing out, it's like the leg pulling in is helping you squeeze the breath out through the nose and then inhaling. And again, squeeze it out, draw that knee in. In opposition, that right leg's reaching away from you. And release. One more. Squeeze. Oh, it's so good. I just want to stay there forever. And release. I know I said one more, but I'm going to be a little selfish. I feel like we need to do another one. Draw that knee in. And then release. We place that left foot down and we just take our time to change over. If the ball has shifted, remember, rearrange when necessary. Right knee is up, find your balancing act. Left leg is straight and long and ideally in a parallel position so it's not turning out, okay? On the next breath out, the right knee is sinking down as that left leg is stretching away. And then we release. Exhale through the nose. Let the weight of the leg try and squeeze all the air out of your lungs. And then breathing in. And again, knee comes in, left leg actively reaches away. If you're a type to lock your knee, just please be careful of that left knee not snapping it back towards the floor, but instead reaching the foot to the wall. In breath. And again, drawing that knee in, stretching that left leg long. One more, and I promise, one more. That's it. Drawing it in. And then letting it release. Now, can you get both your legs to come up for a second? One knee comes towards you. So let's go right knee towards you, left knee away from you, just little movements. Then you're going to circle the knees out and around. You're now going to have your left knee towards you, right knee away from you, and then they switch through the center. And we continue in that same direction. Right knee closest, a little circle around. You keep your feet off the floor, and then you come through the center. My arms are working a little bit here just to keep me balanced. So if you're feeling a bit of a rock and roll going on, that's cool. It's what's meant to be happening. Now think about your legs as two wooden spoons and then just stirring inside a saucepan. And the saucepan's kind of full of water. Maybe you're about to chuck some pasta in there or something. So as your legs are moving, there's resistance. There's also support around you. They're not flopping about. One more, and then we do need to put our brains on and reverse it. So are we ready? Left knee comes closest to you. Pause there. The right knee is away from you. Then open those knees out and around, circling them so the right knee ends up to you, the left knee away from you, and then they pass through the center, okay? So left knee always starts coming to you. Then we open those knees out and around, The right knee is now towards you, and then they pass through the center. And then as you get that little rhythm happening, think of your 2 wooden spoons inside the saucepan and try and let the legs move with ease, and basically oiling those hip joints and rolling the legs around. 2 more here. And 1 more. Awesome work. Bringing those feet down, taking your feet quite wide now. And then what we're thinking about is an infinity sign. Now that's basically the number 8 turned over on its side. Our hips are going to draw an infinity sign. So I'm going to drop my left hip down, okay, so it's heavier on the ball. I'm then going to swish my left hip off to my left side. It then comes up. My right hip is now down. I swish it over to my right, and then my right hip lifts up. My left hip is obviously now down. I drop, I swish, and I lift it. So as I'm doing this movement, I'm just visualizing this kind of circular action, one hip dropping down, up and around, and then the other one taking over. So now that you've had a little bit of a think about it, now just try and let the movement take over. Does it matter if it's not perfect? Absolutely not. Who cares? It's all about just getting some movement of the pelvis. I call these my Brazilian hips, if that helps you out of what we're trying to achieve here. We're just letting them really unlock. And again, wide feet is important, just so you can start to use even a little bit of a push down of your feet to help give your body a bit of guidance here. And 2 more on each side. 1 more on each side. And then come back to the center. Bring those feet in a little bit narrower. Let your bottom lift up. Release it down. It's so good to just not have the ball there and just feel. I actually feel like my pelvis is so much heavier, but in a good way, like it's actually let go of so much tension. And then we're going to take ourselves over onto our side and then push ourselves up to seated position. So if you're facing me, you'll notice that I've kind of left my legs where they landed. So that left shin is along the front of the mat. The right shin is pointing towards the back of the mat. This is our Z sit. We often do this for a mermaid stretch. The ball goes underneath your right butt cheek, because that's this sit bone, or that's the hip that's going to feel like it's probably going to be a bit higher in this position naturally. Okay, so get it under your butt cheek, and then start to feel the hip itself roll forward and back. So as you're rolling the hip forward and back, naturally this leg, this right knee, it has to eventually come off. I don't start from it. I start from my hips. I roll my hip back, I roll my hip back, I roll my hip back. Can't speak that fast. And then my knee eventually lifts. And then to return, I just feel heavy through my knee the whole time. So it will just come down as my hip is getting pushed forward. So you're just letting it roll forward and back. I use my hand to remind myself of where my focus is. What you touch is where your brain kind of brings attention to. Okay, 2 more here, just letting it roll. And last one. And then from here, stretching over and away from the ball, holding it there. And then all I'm doing here is just like a little pulsing action. Almost like I'm just bouncing my butt up and down. Now, if you don't feel much of a stretch, you can go further over. You can go right down onto the elbow if you wish to. I'm using my bottom hand to just give myself a little bit of a push and pull to help me guide my pelvis down and up. And 3, 2, 1. Push the hip down. Hold it there. Slightly spiral yourself up towards the ceiling. Press the right knee down. Press the right hip down. Opening up through the body. And then lifting yourself all the way up. Let's give the other hip some love. Flick your feet around. This time, right shin along the front of the mat. Left shin pointing towards the back of the room. Bum, which bum cheek have we got? Lefty. Okay, here we go. So we're just rolling the hip the left hip forward and back. Letting the knee just go with the flow. Forward and back. Remembering again, this is all about hip opening. We're wanting to try and oil the joint, release it, let go of any tension. Forward and back. Couple more here. One more. And then come through the center. We bend over, away from the ball. We're in that little side bend. And this is where we just did like a little bouncing action here. Press, press. You can adjust how far over you bend by just bending the supporting elbow, taking your supporting hand maybe a bit further away. And press. Keep breathing. 3 more to go. 2, 1, and then press and hold it here. As we push down into our left knee, as we push down into our left hip, we start to spiral and look slightly up towards the ceiling. And look, I don't just get the stretch around my hip, I get it right up through the waist, which is all cool. All those muscles come and attach to your pelvis, so it's important to pay some attention to them. And then as we're coming out of it, we reach the arms out and we get rid of that ball and we come all the way up to standing, okay? And then all we want to do here is see how our pelvis is feeling. We're going to hold the ball in front of us, give it a gentle squeeze through our hands, soften our knees here, and then like when we were lying on our back before with the ball behind us, we're going to go 1 hip forward, 1 hip back. Therefore, 1 knee goes forward, 1 knee goes back. So if you're lying on your back, remember the ball was here behind our pelvis, and we're just rolling it. I'm just bringing it in front so I can just press my hands into it to stop from my upper body from kind of twisting around too much. 3 and 2 and 1 and center. Keep a softness to your knees. Let the pelvis tuck and tilt. But again, not much effort, okay? I'm not forcing my hips anywhere they don't want to go. I'm just visualizing a tail, and that tail's almost like sweeping the floor. It's sweeping under and it's sweeping behind me. And 2 and 1. Stand for a second and then soften the knees again, and this time that tail is brushing from the right to the left side of my mat. Just letting it brush. So 1 hip definitely has to come up as the other hip comes down. Keep breathing through the nose for me, in and out. And 2 and 1. And then stand again, have a little moment, shake your legs out, and now we're going to start to circle those hips around. So I'll show you front on and then I'll go side on as well. So I'm just circling around. And again, if we think still on that tail, if the tail was so long, it would literally be leaving a circular pattern on the floor, okay? If you're feeling again like you're trying too hard, relax. Smaller movements, just letting it go with the flow. And then reverse it, stirring it around. Keeping that ball held. So basically from the chest up, we're not moving. 2 more. And then standing tall. Now, are you ready? This is the infinity sign, okay, that we did before. So we're going to let 1 hip go further forward than the other. So I've got my right hip forward, my left hip back. And then I'm just going to draw a circle around with my left hip. And then I'm going to draw a circle around back to front with my right hip. Left hip and right hip and left hip. I'm just going to get the ball out of the way so you can see what's happening. Left hip and right hip. Left hip and right hip. Remember, it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Just allow the movement to flow. And I'm doing quite big ones here so you guys can see what's happening at home. But don't worry if it's just a little smaller movement underneath you. Yeah, I'm just kind of exaggerating it for you. Just letting it flow, letting it flow. Imagine you're lying on your back with the ball behind your pelvis and you're just allowing that movement to take over. And don't worry, we're not going to reverse it. I'm not going to be that mean. We've got 3, we've got 2, we've got 1, and then we stand tall. So there you have it. Woohoo! We should feel nice and loose through our hips, potentially unlocking some areas of the body. I know I've definitely unlocked. I can feel that I was really tight in my right side of the waist, and now I'm super aware of that, and I feel like I just want to stretch it out a bit more. So don't be surprised. The pelvis is your hub. It transfers all the weight that comes from your upper body into your legs, and vice versa. All the weight that travels from the ground through our legs, it transfers it into our upper body. So it has a huge job, massive responsibility, and it can be really, 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 really tight for those reasons, okay? So feel free to repeat that if you need to loosen things up a little bit more, and even giving one side. I know I'm going to come and do a little bit extra on that right side just after I finish this. Okay, guys, until next time, be safe.